Hi, welcome to Regular Mechanics. My name's Alan. I'm glad you're here. Today I'm starting a bit of a longer video, but this is going to show all the Los Scarabeo published decks that are currently in my collection. So if this is something you'd like to see, stick around. So when it comes to how do I break down and show a collection of 68 different decks, I decided I was going to do it chronologically based on the copyright year in the Little White Book. So this goes back all the way to year 2000. So I'm going to hopefully kind of break these into categories so you can kind of skip around and see which ones you like. But this was just a one way to kind of cover everything with a bit of a organization based on time. The only thing is I am going to shoot all my tarot decks first, and then in the end, as kind of a bonus, I'm going to shoot all my oracle decks. Like, there's like 5 of them, so don't get super excited. What I'm going to do with this collection is I'm going to kind of do it, kind of an overview, look at the deck, kind of show some cards, and as we go through the years, each year I'm going to talk about which is my standout deck and why it became my favorite of that year. Which some years is super easy and some years is going to be a little bit more difficult. That's going to kind of make it fun, right? To have to choose. So, which of these decks, the 21 are my favorite. So, interesting. So, when it comes to the year 2000, the 2000 decks, what I'm going to show first is the Tarot de Marseille. This is just a kind of a standard Tarot de Marseille deck that I got. This was more just to kind of look and to examine what Marseille style looks like. I do love these backs. From this card, which I love about the Tarot de Marseille style, is it looks like this was commissioned in 1987. So as this deck was published in the copyright in my Little White Book was 2000, this may have come back a little earlier because Los Scarabeo was producing decks earlier than the year 2000. But yeah, just kind of really classic. Still looks real new because I haven't used it a whole lot. But this is one of my go-to Tarot de Marseille decks when I do have one. Next, I'm going to talk about the Ancient Tarot of Lombardy. This is, again, another pip deck. I am not sure what initially drew me to this. I don't have all the title cards and extra cards in them. I do like the art in this deck. It's kind of soft. I like the kind of softer tone on the backgrounds. This deck, I know that I used it at least once for some activity. I want to say on Eclectic Tarot. But here, one thing I do like is that, I don't know if you can see, the clubs, the wand suit are clubs, and all of them actually do have a little bit of a number on the top too. This deck is fully reversible. Pentacles, right? Courts are very similar, but they do have just a little bit more color. Quite not as harsh as the Tarot de Marseille cups. And I want to show some swords. Swords aren't the curved scimitars that you see in Tarot de Marseille, and that's one thing I like about this. When I first started learning Tarot de Marseille, that wands and the swords were a little bit confusing for me to initially recognize which was which. That being because the I now know the wands were all straight and the swords were all curved, but this deck was able to kind of get me there a little bit quicker. So that is the Ancient Tarot of Lombardy. Again, another Italian deck. Next, we have a tarot that isn't a traditional tarot, the Mantenga Tarot. I don't know what I'm saying. Again, I like these backs because they are very similar to the Tarot de Marseille backs. But what was really interesting about this deck is it doesn't follow the normal tarot structure. But instead of giving a guidebook, they gave another set of cards that have all the kind of the meanings along with the pictures of the cards. So that's fun. This is a silver foil deck, which I love me some bling. So again, this is just another system I couldn't quite get into. So I have the deck. I keep it kind of for collector purposes, but I don't use it all that much. But it's pretty to look at every now and again. That is the Mantenga Tarot. Next is the Crystal Tarot. This is a modern kind of pip deck. I was introduced to this deck by someone in a tarot class I was taking who said I would like it, and so I checked into it and got it. I have seen some amazing trim jobs of this deck which I'm tempted to think about doing, but I wouldn't use it that much, so I haven't put in the time. But some of this artwork, though, is just gorgeous. And little Scarebeo, if you're listening, which I know you're not, but if you were, reprint this. Borderless. Amazing. This does have a little bit of a unique elemental system, so it's a little kind of off the beaten path. But this is good. This is a great pip deck, which is kind of a half step to the Marseille, if folks are interested. But my favorite deck of 2000 is the Tarot of the Third Millennium. This is a funky deck, and what I love about it most, and hands down, this is why I picked it, are these amazing line-drawn kind of pencil sketches of the major arcana. And this kind of amazing grayscale. I love the Sun card. This has, I mean, an amazing Empress. A couple of things is this might be one of my favorite all-time Hermit cards, which is just great. And also, too, the High Priestess is a woman of color, which is great. Because back in 2000, there weren't that many decks that were as concerned with diversity. And so to see this was great. Now, when I talk about the minors being a little bit funky, they are all part, they create a puzzle. So each minor card has an inset of the Marseille style and then a piece of a puzzle. And so each suit, I believe, was a different puzzle. I did it all once. It took one long night. But essentially, it really kind of tried to take some things, push forward. They've got these interesting backs. I'm not right on fan of, but I kind of like where they were going. That was interesting. So, but this was my favorite deck of 2000 in my collection because of the great majors. And I pull this out as a majors only deck all the time and use it that way. So that was the deck of, those are the decks published by Little Scarebeo from the year 2000 in my collection. When it comes to decks of 2001, it's super easy. And this is the only year where I only have one deck. So, this is the Tarot de Dante. This, I didn't buy this. This is mass market, but I didn't buy it from an American source because everything in the deck is actually Italian. So it makes me want to say that I got it off eBay. But even the little white book, which very unusual for the Scarabeo at the time, is all in one language. And the language is completely in Italian, which I don't speak. So, which is whatever. I got this because Andrea Cirio, which is the artist, was the artist of one of my favorite Let's Get Right decks, the Liberty Tarot of the Stars Eternal. This is based on Dante's trip through Purgatory and Hell. So it's a little off the beaten path. Really interesting. The suits are renamed to Lights, Clouds, Bricks, and Flames. So a little bit different there, but interesting. So this is a collector's piece that I keep in my collection. So, but I mean, because I have the one, my favorite deck of 2001 is the Dante Tarot. When it comes to deck for 2002, there are three that stand out, and these, in some ways, are very kind of stereotypical Little Scarabeo for me, and I'll tell you why. The first is the Tarot of the Journey to the Orient. There is a lot of times that Little Scarabeo has commissioned an artist who will do a deck on a theme. And this is the theme of Marco Polo's journey to Italy. To China, because he was from Italy. And so one thing I love about the whole idea is that here you have an Italian deck creator who is looking at an Italian's journey into China. So the art is very kind of a mix of Italian, Chinese, these awful backs. So yeah, this is interesting, but I don't use it. So I kept it. It's interesting. I mean, every once in a while I look through it, but one thing I've thought about doing is like if I had a deck to anti-haul, then this might be on the list. Just because I just don't use it and there's not a haul. And I have anti-hauled some Let's Get Right decks before. Next on that decks of 2002 that I have is the Art Nouveau Tarot. This has seen a lot of different editions come out from Los Scarabeo. They have a Grand Trumps version, which is a bigger majors only kind of version. There's also a mini too, but I love the colors. Let's search some majors. This has been a deck that I really wanted to like a lot. And when I was able to get it, I must have got it on like eBay somewhere because it came in a bag and not a box, and the bag was damaged, which whatever, other than money. So, I mean, I just love this Justice card. Great. I love Strength as Hercules. So, this was a good deck. I kept it. It's the thing too is the minor suits have a picture, which is fine, and then the list of the pip symbols. But this doesn't say the Five of Wands to me. So if I'm going to use this, I will need to use it based on a kind of numerological meaning, which is fine. But if you're going to have an image on it, then it's tough for me to kind of blend that with both, with kind of having illustrated pips, but not following the Golden Dawn, which you don't have to, but I do. And so if you don't have a deck that follows the Golden Dawn, I don't do that. So, but I kept it. I like it. It stays in this little bag and has for decades now, a while. So I don't expect it to go anywhere. So like I said, I wouldn't anti-haul this one. But when it comes to decks in 2002 that are my favorite, hands down, it's got to be the Fae Tarot. This has been one of my favorite decks for a while. One, I love the guidebook that come with the kit. And so I have bought the kit with the guidebook at least twice, and I rehomed one of them. And I know I've bought the guidebook by itself at least once because it was at half-price books. But this deck just goes straight to storytelling with me. There is a lot of great art in it. This is Mara Aghem. M-A-R-A. And so I love her art. And there it was a time, well, I'm talking about here, but a Los Scarabeo book came out where it talked about that she was creating a labyrinth tarot. Not like the movie, but just that was the theme of it. And the images of it were just captured my heart. And it's never got finished, never got published. But again, let's get right after listening. Please do that. But yeah, no, this is just a great deck with amazing art, fun. I've been able to use this a lot for like storytelling, and have created stories based on the cards and some writing out. So this is just fun. This also, the back's very classic, early 2000 Scarabeo. Take a card image and flip it. This is the Lovers, which is good. So my favorite deck of 2002 is the Fairy Tarot. The Fae Tarot, not Fairy, because they have a Fairy Tarot. That's right. When it comes to decks for 2003, I have two. I have the Tarot of the Mermaids, which is a very obviously mermaid themed deck. It has got these big borders on the top and bottom, which makes me wonder how the art was sized when it was created, so that they had to put that there. But colorful. Yeah. I mean, it's a serviceable fairy tale mermaid deck that I've used a couple times. Not super cool. But yeah. Okay, so that's that. But when it comes to my favorite of the two decks that I have, it is the Gothic Tarot of the Vampires. Now, I like vampires, there's no doubt about it. And I have my fair share of dark decks too. So that's not why I went out. One thing about this deck, and I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. Oh, I love these backs, okay? Is that this was one of the decks that first introduced me to a narrative style of reading. Meaning that in this deck, there is a cast of characters who come up throughout the deck in different cards to tell a story. So that basically when you see them over and over again, like this is the main vampire guy. So, I mean, he's in a lot of the cards, so it's his story. And so, but yeah, so it comes up. And so this deck really intrigued me, and that is when I began really interested in those narrative type decks. And there's a couple of them, and I'll talk about them as I come through. But also, I like it. It's a little dark, and this is one of the first dark decks I got. So it was interesting. But then again, but it's not. It's one of those decks that wasn't great for reading. So I kept it as part of my collection, but not a great reading deck. Okay. Now, 2005, I have 3 decks. I'm going to start off with the tiniest deck in my collection. This is the Visconti deck in mini. It is the gold. I thought it was gold. Not actually gold. I had the big size of the Visconti, and I don't know what happened to it because it's gone. So I might still have it. It might just be in a box I haven't found. I like the idea of a mini deck, but it's just too small for me. But yeah, it's the Visconti deck. So you've seen it before. So, but in the mini size. Then we have the Tarot of Atlantis. And I just love the idea of the myth and the study of Atlantis and what happened to it and the content. I mean, there's a lot to it. So, but again, I like these backs, which are great. So this is just kind of a fun deck. Not super readable as a tarot. But, I mean, my little Scarebeo, a lot of them aren't. A lot of them were part of decks that I added to my collection simply because I love them and I love the art and I love the idea. And 2, and I also love the trip that they took me on when I looked through the cards. So that was part of it. But when it comes to decks, here it is. 2004. And I didn't get this in 2004 because it had to be at least a little bit later. Because that would have been right as I started getting into tarot. And this deck would have scared me. Because it is intense. And this is one of my backup copies because it's all bright and shiny. But this is the Tarot Stars Eternal. This is based on the Thoth system. This is based on the art of Andrea Sergio, right? How are we doing? His name wrong. Yeah, and Roberto Negrini was the author of it. And so there's so much going on in this deck. So I've showed these cards before, and I really do need to kind of do a whole walkthrough of this deck. So I'm not going to go. But this is one of my favorite decks. So obviously it's going to be one of my favorite decks of the year because I have 3 copies of it. This is my backup copy that's open. I have a backup copy that's not even opened yet, and I have my standard copy, which I keep using. So if I've been using it for like 15 years, and I'm not even tempted to use the backup copies, I'm not sure why I have them. But I do, and it's great. That's the Liberty Tarot of the Stars Return. 2005 is one of the biggest years in my collection from Los Scarabeo. I have 6 decks, and there's 68 total, so that's nearly 1/10 that's from this one year. And this year has a lot of great decks that I really enjoyed. So we're kind of go over that. This is in no particular order, but kind of in order, because I'm going to finish with the ones I like the best. But first is probably the Harmonious Tarot. I got this off a trade table at a tarot event. It had been on my radar. This is a little bit of a Art Deco kind of pippish, kind of crossbreed of a deck that had caught my attention. I like the backs, which are cool. One thing I am not a fan of is how, the Los Scarabeo borders normally don't bother me. But in this one they did, because you have the top and the bottom where you have the 6 languages, which is fine. But then you have the border around it and then the card in the middle. And I would trim it off, but it would mess up the back, which I like. So that's a Harmonious Tarot. I got it, picked it up, used it a couple times. I moved on. Next is the Tarot of the 78 Doors. And this deck is really, really interesting. It's all based on the idea that each tarot card is a door that you go through. And I got this deck a little late because someone had posted on, I would say even Instagram, which lets me know how, that I'd seen it. I thought, oh, that's fine. But here you go. This door, and I like the devil is a portal. This deck needs a little bit more love for me. I just don't have time. But it was fun, and I had a unique idea. So I grabbed it and used it a couple times. See, I like this. The sun is a labyrinth. Judgment the door. Okay, and now how about this? The world as a door of birth, which is great. A little bloody, I'm not gonna lie. But it's kind of cool. So that's cool. So that is the Tarot of 78 Doors. Next, I'm going to talk about, this is one of my favorite decks. So this is going to be down because I want to talk about the other one. The Tarot, the Golden Tarot of Klimt, which is the artist, Gustav Klimt. And I got this deck as a trade when I was at Reader Studio 2010, I would say. But I was not a huge fan of Klimt's art until I got this deck. And this deck just gives some amazing readings. It is a little pippish, but like here, like in the Nine of Swords, you definitely see that yes, it's pippish, yes, there is an image. It makes sense and it connects, so it's great. So this is fun and just a beautiful piece of art. I'm so glad I got this. Strength is 11. Cool. Now, when it comes to when it comes to decks of 2005, there were a couple of decks that they came out with that were really, really kind of unique and did something different. So first I want to talk about is the Tarot of Secret Garden. And this is by Lucia Martioli. This deck, I'm sure if you're watching my channel, you know, this is an amazing deck because on one side is a color image and on the back side is a black and white image. And that's like that on every card. I can't imagine how hard it was to produce this deck, to kind of do that. Also, one thing I love about this is this was one of the first decks where they ditched the 6 names of the cards on it, where they went with the number and the suit symbol, which obviously speaks across, you know, cultural bounds, so you don't have to worry about language. Wow, and but this deck is fey. It's a little dark. It's gritty, and it really kind of pushes the limits. I end up not being able to resonate with it too, and I should have learned this lesson too because I need cards to have backs on them, and I love this deck enough that I think the art on it was really cool, and so I kept it and used it. And also Lucia's second deck, which we'll talk about here in a minute, I was also a huge fan of what she did there. So I kept it, but I didn't learn that lesson when I got the Tarot vice versa. I could not stand that deck because I needed backs, and the images were fine, but I didn't know how to read it with 2 sides. So, but that was interesting. This is kind of the first time they did something unique like that. The next one I want to talk about is a Tarot of Reflections, and this deck is the only one I've modified. It's like, this is my modified copy. And this is a deck I learned to read on. Because what it does is kind of has a upright and kind of an image of the underside. In some of the cards you can't see it. But here, like in the sun card, you can see it. The up and then the lower. This deck just taught me how to read. It wasn't super easy, and so I had to really push myself, but the images were right away smith enough to do it. One thing I did find about this deck is the art can be a little bit uneven, but when it hit, it was amazing. Like this 5 of coins is great. Like this Ace of Wands is really good, but some of the quartz were a little weak. And if you've watched my channel for any length of time, I've talked about decks. When I talk about the 9 of Cups, I talk about being the fat and happy card. It's because of this guy. I love this guy. He is the 9 of Cups for me, and I love it. But he's got green hair. Alphaba as the High Priestess is one way to go. But there's I like the kind of non-binary, non-gender conforming Fool, which is great. This Moon is amazing. So I love this deck. But sometimes the art would be a bit of a mess. But I like it and I learned from it. And like I said, I trimmed off the edges, took the borders off, trimmed it in black. This has been my most successful trim job, and I love it. When I talk about my favorite decks of 2005, Tarot Reflections is it. But I want to talk about the Tarot of Metamorphosis. This is a great deck, and it's all about change and adapting and moving forward. The art is kind of funky. Not 100% my aesthetic, but I got over it. But here is the thing. I love the little white book. And I don't say that very often about, but every card is giving a good sense of what change, of how it represents a change, and really taught me a lot about how does the idea each card can manifest a change in a person's life. I remember the day I got this. I'd gone to Books A Million right before a tarot class, and I got distracted in class by how much I liked this deck. That I didn't really listen to the professors much, the instructors much. But yeah, so it kind of reads right out of the box, and it was really a fun deck. So much so that when the creator did an oracle, I make sure I got that oracle too, which I'll talk about in the end. Next, we have the year of 2006, right? So we're kind of 2005, 2006. You can see where we're going with this. Okay, I have 5 decks in this one, and I want to talk about first. Let's talk about this one. This is the Tarot of the Spirit World. And this is one of those decks that really introduced me to the idea of like spirit guides and things like that, which I didn't know anything about. So this deck was a little intimidating at first because I wasn't ever one of those people who really saw that, guardian angels and spirits all around. And this was a little bit of a scarier deck. But it was interesting. That's how I got it. I like the imagery. So, yeah. So cool. So that's it. Tarot Spirit World. Not a whole lot to say about that. Because there are some other really great decks. Next, we have the Samurai Tarot, which I love these backs. They're very classic. Scarebeo. Again, here, too, we have big borders. Just big borders and borders. So, not a fan. But I really like the art in this. It really has a sense of Japan. And see, how about this for an Empress? Just super strong. It's the Samurai Empress, right? So cool. The minors. Let's jump to some of those. Again, they're illustrated. So they're illustrated. This one gave some surprisingly good readings. I didn't use it a whole lot, but I again keep it because it's an amazing art deck. It's fun. It has a real sense of culture to it. Now we have 3 decks left, and I don't know which order I want to talk about. I think I'm going to talk about the Manga Tarot, which there are 100 Manga Tarots out there because that's fine because I almost think Samurai one. But one reason why I like this deck is because it does something really cool. It flips the gender in most of the cards. Like the Magician is the Sorceress. The High Priestess is the Priest. Number 3 is the Emperor, not the Empress, so it's a dude. Number 4 is the Empress. Number 5 is the Priestess. Of course, the Lovers is the Lovers. The Chariot is a woman. Justice is a dude. The Hermit is an old woman. The Wheel is the same. So let's look at some other ones. The Star is a dude. It's cool. The Moon is a woman and a bear, because I guess that's a flip. Sun is a man. Justice is a woman. And the World is a couple. Now, when you work with this, the glyphs and the kanji all have a different color association and suit. So there's things somewhere there, so that's why they're. But yeah, so this was fun. This is really a great deck that played with the idea of gender and who is portrayed in the cards. Next is the Tarot of the Holy Grail, and this was a fun deck because it really takes the hero's journey through the majors as like a pilgrimage that kind of relates to the search for the Holy Grail. And there's a little bit of Crusader imagery in there. The minor suits do some fun stuff with how they break it up. The wands are pagan spirituality. The cups are talking about Kabbalah. The swords, the swords are combative kind of units, and the pentacles are the Knights Templar. When it comes to my favorite deck of 2006, hands down, without a shadow of doubt, you can see based on the box, is the Universal Fantasy Tarot. I have loved this deck from the moment I got it. This is when I fell in love with the artist Paolo Martinello, and I proceeded to get all his decks. I've done a walkthrough of this deck, so hey, I'll link it. But just, I love the art. I love the imagery. I love how this reads. I saw in a video where someone talked about how this was a novelty deck. It's not a novelty deck. This deck is themed for sure, but it really does speak, and it is a great deck, and it's so much fun. So yeah, so my number one deck of 2006, excuse me, is the Universal Fantasy Tarot. So 2007 was a big year in my tarot collection, and my tarot collecting. In 2007 I'd been established in tarot 3 or 4 years. I'd really kind of had gotten going. That is when I made a move from where I was living in Texas back to Oklahoma. And I found my very first tarot mentor in person in class. So that was a big deal. I loved it. I loved getting engaged with the tarot community for the first time one-on-one. But when it came to collecting, that's also when I kind of gave myself permission to really kind of go at it and just be unapologetic that I enjoyed it and that was something I wanted to do. But when it comes to those Scarabeo decks, the Scarabeo art book, 1987 to 2007, 20 years, the story, 20 years of tarot, the story of the Los Scarabeo story. This is a great big book that talks about the history of Los Scarabeo, different decks, all kinds of fun stuff. All kinds of fun stuff. So I got this book, and I remember getting this, and it was, I just got out of grad school, and I was broke. And this seemed like it was such a big deal to get like a $45, because $40 plus tax, so $45. To get a $45 book on just tarot decks. But I got it, and I've loved it ever since. And it doesn't seem like it'd be that much now, but it was a lot. I remember thinking, this is a big investment. So I got it, and I love it. And it really showed me some of the genius of those Scarabeo decks and where they're going. So that was good. So I love that. But I don't even think this is in print anymore. So I think that's awesome. So, but that was also the year where I have most of the decks. The biggest portion of my 7 are from that year. So let's talk about it. We're going to talk about first kind of a classic one. We have the Universal Worth Tarot. This is kind of a blingy deck, which is a little fun. But based on the work of Oswald Worth, yeah, just kind of good. I thought I would get on with this deck because it was kind of fun. I learned it. I used it, but nah. It's, you know. How about this deck card, though? So much fun. So, and then, yeah, I kind of had, let's look at the minors. The minors are pip-ish, too. So, this looks a lot like the Crystal Tarot and the pips to me. So, I'm just not a big fan of pip decks. So, that was it. The next deck I want to talk about is a deck that introduced me to Lee Burston as a deck author, and that is the Zodiac Tarot. And this takes the Golden Dawn Astrological Association and put them in card in a really unique way. So, like, say we start with the Fool as Uranus and kind of like the radio tower. Hermes, or Mercury, is the child in the Magician. The Moon is the older lady. Venus is the Modern Woman. Aries is the swing. Taurus is the church. And then what it does is when you go back and you look at the different suits, it puts them in different configurations. So that way you can kind of find a way of learning how the astrological work. This was a great idea. Didn't quite connect with me, but I still keep it because it was interesting. It was a good try. And I do love these bags, for sure. So that is the Zodiac Tarot. Keeping on kind of a spacey theme. Obviously, Zodiac is not space, but I mean it is. It is the UFO Tarot. And this deck has always blows my mind. And is amazing. It's based on, obviously, UFO kind of ideas. Here, the Magician is a great card that kind of shows you how they're going to deal with the elemental issues with the minor suits. But yeah. So just gotta go through. Again, no names on it, just the numbers and the images. So, and then the quartz, not the quartz, the suits are all based on different types of aliens that people have said they've encountered. So, like these are, the wands are all like these glowy people. And then cups are like the silver. I want to get those. You guys are also very watery. The swords, again, everyone's got a flying saucer, are the gray ones with the big heads. So this is a Four of Swords. No. Just no. An alien autopsy or an alien examination is not rest or recuperation, which the Four of Swords is. Just no. And then finally, the pentacles or coins are insectoid aliens, which is nice. The court cards do something different. I just remembered. So you have page is kind of like 1 dash. Knights are 2 dashes. Queens are 3s, and knights are and kings are 4. So again, you can describe how you want to, and just a nice little hierarchy. And like this doesn't necessarily scream female, so that was fun. So that was the UFO Tarot. One had kind of it's a little fun. It was really interesting. Next is the Sorcerer's Tarot, and this is just kind of a standard Scarebeo deck. No, just Sorcerers. Again, it's the same card style, amazing, nice colors. Obliquely Rider-Waite-Smith imagery. So that usually on the silver card. But yeah, there's some Magician magic on there, so that's fine. Next, I'm going to talk about the Tarot of the Pirates, which is great. And this is one of those decks that I first saw in the Scarebeo book. Yeah, so pirates, and I love these backs, which are very ocean themed. So can you believe it's 6 pentacles? So cool. How about the 7 pentacles? Waiting as the sharks waiting for the boat to sink. So, but this was a fun kind of obviously themed deck. With the right person, with the right situation, you can get right on with this deck. Next is a tough choice because there are 2 decks that came out that year that I really, really love. We're going to talk about. I'm talking about the Scarebeo deck first. Next, this was to be the flagship deck. I've shown this on my channel before. This is meant to be a mix of all 3 major traditions of the Rider-Waite-Smith, Thoth, and Marseille. I mentioned this in my Thoth clone video that I don't think they're as successful as I'd hoped, but it's fun. A good reading deck. I mean, I've used it. Of course, I like Rider-Waite-Smith, so it works for me. So that's cool. But then I would have to say my favorite deck of the year is my Mona Lisa Tarot, which I've done a walkthrough on the channel before. This is the same Paolo Martinello who did the Universal Fantasy deck. See the thing? I love this deck. This is, again, another narrative deck where there are different people who show up throughout the cards. that you can put together as a puzzle to create your meanings and stories. Not quite Rider-Waite-Smith, so it doesn't quite work that way, but that's never how I use it. And again, I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this until it happens, and I manifest it, or I die. Mark McElroy, The Scarabeo. I know there was a book. I know there was. I don't know how complete it was, if it was edited, I don't know what. Give us whatever you can on this deck. I know no one cares. I mean, I just, please, 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 please. I would love just to, see the longhand version. Just something. What was the thought process that went into creating this amazing deck? Because I know that when a tarot deck gets created, there's a script. There had to be something written down about how he was to depict the card images. And I would even love to see that. Give us something. So my favorite deck of 2007, the biggest year of my tarot collection from the Scarebeo, is the Mona Lisa Tarot. And if you want to see a walkthrough of that, go check it out. Oh, that was tough, though. That was tough. I don't know if that or the Scarebeo Tarot, which I've used more. That's a bigger reading deck for me. And I still do, but. All right. Can you believe we're like 7 years in and I'm still going? Okay, 2008. I have 4 decks. And these are all really great decks that really bring something different to the table. What we'll talk about first is the Dream Enchantress. This is a deck of all women, which, whatever. Again, this is a great, good backs, like it. Again, no names, just numbers. So whatever system you use, you can use. Love this watercolor art. I think this is the same artist that did the Secret Tarot, and I really like this one better than the Secret Tarot. So that's why I think I kept it and passed the other one on. See it, paragraph. Love it. Oh, there's a man in this one, in the Lovers, which is cool. But mostly, Dream Enchantress as well. And the what they did with the courts, because it's all women, is they did a great job of just where's the stupid court cards? I know there are court cards. I know there are. All majors. Oh, okay. So on the court cards and the Dream Enchantress, they just did a number and a symbol at the bottom. So that's the page. It's not, how great is that? The Queen, maybe? And the King. So, but I mean, you have all women, so would you still be King? Consort. I mean, how are you going to do it? Are you guys going to go? There you go. Right, Demon. So that is the Tarot of the Dream Enchantress. I wonder if it'd be better just to do a long pause and break between them all, and then put them all up, or take time and do mini pauses. I know. Either way, we've got this. Okay. So, we're going to talk about, I don't have a lot of cute and fluffy Let's Go Bear decks, but the Tarot of the Magical Forest is definitely one of these. And this is, a hit or miss deck. You love it or you don't. I have loved this deck. And Peekaboo Rose, Juliet Peekaboo Rose, has a trimmed copy of this. And I think, what's it her? I know she's working with it. I'm thinking about trimming mine because I think it's great. The backs don't match the front, which, is a little disappointing. Whatever, but, it's animals. Rider-Waite-Smith. It's fun. Cool. Next are 2 decks. I am going to talk about the Initiatory Tarot of the Golden Dawn. This is a deck that is meant to be Initiatory Tarot of the Golden Dawn. We're supposed to bring people into the Golden Dawn system. As you kind of see in the back here is classic cross with the color scales in it. But yeah, based on the Libra T text, Crawley's work. So it's good. Still in print. I know this was print. I just saw it in their catalog. I didn't quite get on with this deck. The Pinnacles of Roses, which makes sense. Pinecone Staves for Wands. It does use the Prince, King, Queen, Knight formula. But my favorite tarot of 2008 is again another narrative tarot, and that is the Dark Grimoire Tarot, based on the work of Lovecraft. And this deck is so much fun. Obviously, a dark. I love the backs, but I like how they did. They kind of kept the little banner at the bottom for the titles, which works. But again, here you have the guy, he in the hat. He is the main character, and he is seen throughout this as he marks his journeys into this kind of world of darkness. There's some freaky stuff going on. So, but yeah, but this is one of those decks that really, how about this for Justice card, really brought me into narrative tarot. I love it. I love the Aces are books. So it's fun. So this is one of my favorite dark decks too. And as we get into October and summer season, this always comes out and makes an appearance. So it's fun. I do wish that maybe I trimmed it, but it's good. So my favorite deck of 2008 is the Dark Grimoire Tarot. 2007 had an additional deck I forgot to add to my collection. Whenever I was preparing for this video, I only got one copy of each of the 68 different decks that I owned because there's no need to show two. I did make a late decision later to add the first edition of the Circle of Life Tarot, which came out in 2007. And this was a yellow backed, which I like the design. The yellow's a little harsh deck with just by Maria Di Stefano. This was a great set of arts. Really taught me how to use round decks and reversals. I'd gotten around to using reversals, but here what I would use is I would use tilts and leans. And if it was tilting clockwise, that meant the power was growing and was manifesting to its full point. If it was leaned back, it meant that it was still in the process of forming. And if it was all the way reversed, then it was blocked. And so you had kind of a 360 rotation, which was fun. Didn't use it a whole lot, but it really gave me an idea of how to interpret cards based on different levels of energy expression. But I like this deck. I enjoyed it. I really wish I could have trimmed it because the white borders were a little bit tough. But it was kind of fey and very earthy deck, and I really liked it too. But when 2016 comes out, I'm going to show the new edition, which I like a lot better. Okay. As we enter 2009, the final year of the 2000s, I only have two decks to show. First is the Heart Tarot. This is by Maria Di Stefano, the artist of the Circle of Life Tarot. And so she had a round deck, and now she has this amazing heart-shaped deck. And this was kind of funky. It's heart-shaped. And I thought, how is this going to work out? It worked out really, really well. A little story about this deck. I was buying at Borders because that's back when Borders was still a thing. And this came out, I would say, just before Valentine's Day or something. And I'm buying it, and the dude at the register goes, "Oh, you get it for your girlfriend?" I went, "Yeah." So here we go. Basically, it's just a tarot card. And one thing, too, is how she made use of the heart shape worked better in some. But I love this Lovers card. This is great. I actually was able to shuffle this by putting the two lobes together and putting it together so it shuffles really way better than I thought a heart-shaped deck would. This does great for romance readings, and so a lot of times when it's around Valentine's Day, I will get it out and get online and do a couple of readings for some folks. But it's fun, and it's heart-shaped, so how can you not love it as a collector? Now, a couple years later, or a couple years ago, the Infinity Tarot, I saw it kind of coming out. I was like, I'm going to get that, and I missed it. I don't know what happened, and now it's out of print, and I can't find a decent copy anywhere. So if anyone's got one and want to get rid of it at a reasonable rate, hit me up. Let me know. I might take it off your hands. Now, the final deck of both, and my favorite deck of the year of 2009, was the Tarot of the Sweet Twilight. This deck, this is the emo deck. There's no doubt about it. And this is a little, I don't know, fangirly maybe. But yeah, this is an emo. I love these bags. So this has a funky set of art. It is a little I would say a little tempered, but not really. You kind of get that fantastical vibe where some people's bones don't actually go the right way. But yeah, it's a fun deck. And this deck had a whole moment. And I know people out there love this deck still. There's no doubt about it. And this was great. So I had a copy of this, and then I traded it at Reader Studio for something which I don't remember. And then I knew that I had to get another copy. So this isn't my original copy, but this is a fun. So the Tarot of the Sweet Twilight is my favorite Low Scarebeo deck, released in 2009. 2010, here we go. For 2010, I have 5 decks I'm going to be showing y'all. The first is the Elemental Tarot. This is just a kind of a pretty standard deck. I feel like when I open these, they all like, oh, this is a brand new deck, because it feels like brand new. This is obviously a deck built on the elemental correspondences of the tarot, which is fine. I like the art. It's a little amber and kind of dark, really fall colored like. But it didn't wow me. It's one of those things that, yeah, it's good. I like the art. How about this devil though? Ooh. But I mean, it just didn't fit my reading style. It didn't fit my aesthetic. So it's good. How about the Mother Maiden? See, some of it's good, but I just didn't get on with it. So that's it. Next is the Shaman Tarot, which I wanted to like, but a couple things just right off the bat. I am not a fan of these borders. Just the pink and the green and the aqua turquoise, no. And while I like the idea of the symbol and the number on the cards, this one just didn't work. It didn't connect with the sky. The artwork was just a little too cartoony, which is tough for me to say. And I just couldn't get into it. Yeah. No, I mean, I just don't, maybe I should have known about shamanism. But no, so this was a pass on mine. In 2010, there was a lot of lead up to the whole idea of the 2012 Doomsday, whatever. And this is the 2012 Tarot of Ascension. And I think this is still available. Now it's just called the Tarot of Ascension. One thing why I got this deck is it is the artist who did the Dark Grimoire Tarot. And if there's one thing, if there's an artist whose art I like, I will back their decks. Again, I like these backs, I like this red. But this, I mean, you can just look at it and it just feels just like the Dark Grimoire Tarot. It's still kind of funky, it's still kind of fun, and completely unusable. Not completely unusable, just I didn't use it. So, but I mean, I got it. It went, because, I mean, 2012 was such a whole feel, which is interesting. Next, the next deck I want to talk about is the Tarot of the Celtic Fairies. This was a deck I got without buying the kit, and I know that this one was definitely a kit because of the bigger book. And I've thought about hunting down the book because I do like the art in this deck. It has a kind of a lot going on for it. I love these backs again, and so this is just kind of fun. Again, it's a fairy. They have done lots of fairy tarots. And they're kind of hit or miss with me sometimes, but I like this one. I like the coloring. So this is my second favorite deck of 2010. My favorite deck, and one thing that you're going to kind of see is we saw a little bit of a packaging difference from the in the Heart Tarot, but here with the Quantum Tarot, we're going to see the first in my collection of the kind of the two-piece box. And this I have talked about in my Double Down. The Quantum Tarot by Chris Butler and Kay Stopforth was a Kansari deck that put out that they went out of business, but then Los Scarabeo picked up the rights. And this lacks some of the bling to it, but you can still see some of the kind of the embossed. I don't know if you're actually going to see it. But this is an astronomical, not astrological deck based on free images from the Hubble telescope, which is just a great use of their art. And it just was a standout deck too because I really felt that it did something different with the tarot. You know, I still, like here, it blended, you can kind of see Mercury, but this has a whole big book where you look into and you can study like where the pictures came from and what they're showing. to really illustrate the meaning of the card. So that was my favorite deck of the year, the Quantum Tarot version 2 by Kay Stepforth and Chris Butler. Hi, I've had to take a little bit of a break, but I'm back to complete the rest of my Lo Scarabeo collection. I'm doing the years from 2011 through 2021. It seemed like 2010 was a big year in which I really cut back on how many Lo Scarabeo decks I kept, or got, or I kept, because a majority of my collection is from 2000 to 2010. And here I've got just a couple decks. I have a couple years where there's only one deck that I'm going to talk about. But I was a little bit more discerning, a little bit more demanding from what I wanted from my decks, and I think that really worked out. So here we are with 2011. We're going to start with the Rollo Dark Tarot. I got this deck simply because I was a collector. This is a deck that was put out originally by another deck company, deck creator, deck publisher. And I'd seen copies of it, and I thought this is really kind of a cool fantasy art deck. Definitely dark, that was on my radar. As soon as Lo Scarabeo picked it up, I jumped on it and got it, and I have added it to my collection. I don't use it a lot because it's a little bit too dark for me, but I mean, it's fun and it's something I have in my collection. Next is the Fairy Lights Tarot. This is by Lucia Mattioli. This is the same creator who did the Secret Forest Tarot that has the black and white image on one side and the color image of the card on the other side. So it's really cool. Here you do have great backs. I did talk about these in my favorite back design video. But here, what she did is she created a group of paintings that were paired with each other so that each of these cards is actually half of a painting that goes with something else. Now, one thing that didn't work out quite in publication is, if you notice, of course, there's the Scarabeo border. That makes it hard to basically, I mean, these two cards don't go together, but you can't put them side by side because there's a border and see the image. There have been a couple of folks who I've seen do trim jobs of these, which makes it happen, and it's nice, but I haven't used this deck that much. It's more of a collector's piece for me, and so I'm not going to put that kind of effort in trimming a deck that I may or may not use. It takes a lot of time to trim a deck. But that's cool. The Fairy Lights Tarot, which is kind of neat. It's a fun idea. And so anytime there's a fun idea, you know, I can get behind that. But speaking of fun ideas, my number one deck of 2011, hands down, is the Tarot of the Silicon Dawn. And I know that some of you, maybe, see this deck and know it's out of print because this is so out of print and so hard to find. This is such a unique design, right? You have that magnetic flip box. We see these all the time now, but in 2011, this was kind of a brand new idea. Inside, you have a complete pictorial guide of all the cards. It's got a great full-colored guidebook. Not full color, it's color guidebook, right? For all the cards. But what is cool about this deck is it is a smaller size. So not at all like a normal Lo Scarabeo size. It's got spot gloss on the cards, so that way it gets a little extra dimension. There are extra cards. It has a kind of its own kind of system, and it's fun. This deck doesn't get a lot of use for me, but I love the art. I love everything that was attempted to be done in this deck. Here's the back. And there's literally a card in this deck that is the back and the back. So you get it, and you can just do a lot of fun stuff with this. So hands down, my favorite deck of 2011 is the Tarot of the Silicon Dawn. Hands down. Because it is so much fun. Just so much fun. And if you can get hands on this deck, I say do it, because it's so rare right now, but it's so much fun. Okay, 2012, I only had one deck, and that is the Book of Shadows Tarot, the So Below deck. This is the kit edition, which comes with the book and the one deck. And the thing is because what you were supposed to do is whenever the second edition came out, the As So Below, you paired them together and put them in the same box. This deck is a little bit different because it does some different things with the suits and the meanings. And it's almost reads more of an oracle. But it also, I really like the idea of the Book of Shadows, that this deck really does teach a lot about, I'm going to say Wicca and things like that, which I don't know anything about because it's got the holidays in it. You know, and some theology, which is really, really cool. So I got it just because out of interest. Then whenever 2013 came out, I didn't actually get the physical deck, but I got the So Below version on the Fool's Dog app, which I have so many decks on that app, which I love having tarots on my phone. I got it and it was fine, but it wasn't something I necessarily wanted to invest in getting a physical copy. So I say that, but now I'm kind of to the side, got everything else, like, oh, I want the other deck to make the set, which I'm probably not going to do, but I want to. But these are really kind of cool packs too. So this is a fun deck. So that would be my favorite deck of 2012 because it's the only one. It's the Book of Shadows as above. 2013 has 2 decks. So this is kind of an easy choice. I have the Tarot Illuminati. I talked a little bit about this in my Deck Deterrence and Delights video about why I like this and why I don't. Great guidebook of full color images, which I am so behind. This deck is pretty in that it's got a great gilding on it. The cards have a great back, which is cool. And a lot of really beautiful art on the front. It is a little busy for me, and the art style is not quite my aesthetic, so that's why it's not one of my favorite decks. But here's the fact, like I said in my other video, this deck reads. It reads really well, and a lot of people really like it. So when I pull it out, I get a lot of oohs and ahs, and so I use it. But I would never read with myself in this deck. I just saw myself. So the deck I've chosen for my #1 deck for 2013 is the Mimberbag Magical Tarot. This deck, when it came into my collection, literally replaced the Animal Lords Tarot because of how cute it is and kind of does the same thing. Here are the backs, which are great. But here what you have is kind of a collection of anamorphic animal heads on human bodies. The art is very stylized. It's a little bit darker in tone. So this is a serious deck that reads with these kind of, weird little creatures on it, which I love. I've used this a couple times. I pull this out. This is a great late at night, laying in bed. Don't want to do anything super serious, but I don't want to be just I'm not happy bunny feeling either, because these cards can be real serious, and this is just kind of a great late night deck. So that's how I use it most of the time. So that is the Mimberbag Tarot, and my favorite tarot of 2013. When it comes to a year where it was the toughest decision to decide which deck I like the most, 2014 pretty much takes the cake. I only have 2, and it is the Tarot Muha and the Night Sun Tarot. These decks are so different. They have such a different aesthetic. They read completely different. They scratch this is the Night Sun Tarot, 2 separate itches that I love. One, I got this deck too at a tarot conference, so it has some sentimental value to it. That's a title card. And as soon as I saw this deck, I'm like, yes, 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 yes. This is a dude deck, and tarot is it's female dominated. I'm not hashtag breaking news. And so, but decks have different energies. Some have kind of female vibe and male vibe. This has a definite male vibe, and this is a dude deck. This is a deck it's good stuff. We just go. It is a little CGI, but I can let that go because I love just how harsh and stark and masculine the energy is in this deck. It is pippish, but I get over that because I like it so much. But still, when it came down to the deck I'm choosing as my #1 deck, it's got to be the Tarot Muha. I love this deck. When I did my If All My Decks Disappeared video, which the hashtag is, if all your decks disappeared, which ones would you rebuy? And I had to put this one on there because I thought I lost it. Well, I did lose it because I didn't know where it was. But I thought it was gone forever. And I bought another copy, and then it turned back up, 2 months later, because that's how it happens. But this is a great all-around, just classic reader. This deck just goes. It pulls no punches, but it also isn't rough around the edges. It can work with grieving clients. It can work with love readings, business readings, and just it's good. And the art is beautiful. The borders are almost a bit much, but they're not, and then they work, and so they're cool. I would love this with a gold gilding because I love everything with gold. Yeah, I love everything with gold gilding, but just imagine how cool that would be. And yes, I know there are ways of edging a deck, and I'm not gonna get all crazy about it, but this is fun, But this is great. So this is my favorite deck of 2013. and 14 Lemuel Tarot. So now we're down to the year 2015. And so I got all my decks out, I'm looking, and I put them in order. And of the 68 different decks I have, I do not have a single deck copyright in 2015, which seems really strange because in the 20 years I have 68 decks. But I went and looked back at the Scarebeo catalog online, and I just didn't like any of the decks. So we're bypassing 2015. I don't have a favorite deck that year. But we're gonna go straight on to 2016, which was a good year because I have some decks I really like. I'm gonna start off with the Tarot Apocalypsis. This is the companion to the Illuminati Tarot. I got this within the last couple of months. When I shot my video of deck Deterrence and Delights, I talked about how I'm thinking about getting this deck because I like and dislike the Tarot Illuminati so much that I wondered how this would read, and I wonder if it would read a little bit differently. I was captured by this hardbound full color guidebook, which I have been reading and been enjoying because there's a lot of stuff going on in this book, so I recommend it. So then I got the deck, but the deck is the same art as the Tarot Illuminati, but it's not gilded. And this should have been gilded. But it's still kind of CGI, still really busy. And I've looked through the cards, I've counted all the cards, make sure they're all there. But I've not used this once. Just not even once. I probably will get around to it, maybe at some point, but maybe not. Just hasn't called to me, because I've got a lot of decks. And so, but this is this, is the deck that came in this year, but it goes back to 2017. So, yeah, so not my favorite deck, but this book is interesting. Like I said, I'll probably finish the book. I love this slipcover with the book and the cards. The problem is there's no actual box for the cards, so they fall out of this little insert, which drives me a little crazy. So I'm probably gonna get a piece of paper, because one thing I'll do with decks, if there isn't like especially the Llewellyn sets that don't come a lot like this, I'll just get a piece of like regular notebook paper and wrap it like a little gift and then stick it in so that way the cards stay together and don't get all lost and shuffled. I haven't done that with this because I still have kind of hopes to maybe use it, but that's kind of pretty quick. So that's the Tarot Apocalypsis. The next, it's a little tough because I have two decks that I like a lot. So, but I'm going to talk about the Cat Tarot again. Okay, so this is the third video this deck's made an appearance in. I talked about my deck, Deterrence and Delights, about how I love the art. I love how the images chosen and the pop cultural icons that were paired with the Arcana make perfect sense and give such great recognition and meaning. But I just can't use it because it's got cat people in it. And that is just enough kind of dissonance that I can't make the connection. But I love this deck. I'm never going to get rid of it. I look through it all the time. Obviously, it's one of the few decks I've actually done a full walkthrough of. And I love this deck. But my favorite deck of 2017 has got to be the Circle of Life, 2nd edition. This is the Maria Di Stefano deck. And so, when Circle of Life Tarot came out, I liked it. And I bought it. And I liked it so much that when her Heart Tarot came out, I bought it. And I liked it. And I like it a little bit better than Circle of Life. But when this came out, I thought, oh look, it's a new box, which I love this new box. But what hit me right off the bat were these amazing backs. On the Circle of Life, the 1st edition, it's just a yellow and white pattern. It's the same pattern, but this one's colored in and way more colorful and just sings. Next, they replaced the border with a solid purple border, which is the symbol and the number. And this pulls the color and the artwork out so much that I am in love with this deck. I would say I've only had this maybe a couple of years. I didn't get this when it first came out, but I'm using it and I am falling back in love with the art. What made me love it in the first place. This I had to actually get the deck side by side because I think the borders really don't bleed out the art as much as in the white ones, but they're the same kind of the resolution, the brightness, but they seem deeper and richer because it has a darker border. So this is the case of a deck that was done again so much better, which makes me tell Oh, Scarabeo, hey, you have some decks that you could really up the game on by doing something like this too. Take a look at your catalog and do it for some more decks, please. So that's my favorite. So that has to be my favorite deck of 2000. So this has to be my favorite deck of 2016 is the Circle of Life, 2nd edition. 2017 has 3 different decks, really kind of span the gamut of what I like and don't like about Scarebeo. The first one I want to talk about is the Mystical Tarot. This is a very kind of classical feeling tarot. I got this on my first trip to Northwest Tarot Symposium as the attendee's gift. Kind of cool backs. It's got these great vibrant colored cards with just kind of a small upper and lower border. There it says King. Here, it's got a little bit of a Marseille feel to it, but not too much. I mean, the pips are Rider-Waite-Smith. And it's fine. I liked it a little bit at first, and then I went to, I don't like it at all. And now I'm coming back around to, yeah, it actually reads okay. And this might be a little bit more of an aesthetic that clients might respond more to. So, and the more I use it, the more I like it, and I'm not as turned off on it as I was initially after I got over the honeymoon phase. So that is the Mystical Tarot. The second deck I want to talk about is the Epic Tarot. This is by my boy, Paulo Martinello. He is the artist who did the Universal Fantasy Tarot and the Mona Lisa Tarot, both decks, which I love. Have done walkthroughs on my channel. And there's probably a walkthrough going to be done on this one because I have to do the trifecta. But again, great backs on the cards. And just the artwork is just my style. It is definitely line-drawn, detailed comic book art in full color that I like. I like how he redid the court cards. And it took a little while to get through, but there's griffins, phoenixes, unicorns, and unicorns, and dragons. So it's not gendered. You can use it however you want. There's definitely a lot of different energy and that you can take into elemental association with that, so it really works. So I like this deck, but when it comes to my favorite deck of the year, it's got to be the Santa Muerte Tarot. This deck is so cool. At first I wasn't drawn to it because I'm not a big Day of the Dead fan, because I thought this was just another Day of the Dead Tarot. And it's not, it's a Santa Muerte Tarot. It's a tarot dedicated to Santa Muerte, which is a whole deal, which you can look up online. So the art is, these backs are just cool. But I love these borders, which are just kind of the bottom trim and kind of open it up to the top. The more I looked at this, and the more I saw it online, the more I saw it on Instagram and videos. This High Priestess, oh, just so. The more I got drawn to this deck. And so I got it. And I liked it. And then a couple of years ago, in 2019, I went to Mexico with my family. And it was like the week before Samhain and Halloween. And I took this deck with me because, you know, it's the week before Samhain and Halloween, so I took it. And had just a great time using this. And that's when I fell in love with it. And now that it is nearly, we're talking days away from October, this deck's not going back in the store. It's staying out and it's gonna see some action. So, and also too, the more I look into the idea of Santa Muerte, and there's some more books coming out about the belief and what it represents. There's really something to it that is intriguing that I'm looking into just to kind of so that I can understand more as I use the deck. So that's fun. So my number one deck of 2017, it's got to be the Santa Muerte Tarot. And that was just stuff here because I really like the Epic Tarot too. But yeah, no, this one's just great. And again, how much do you love this box? This box is just so cool, gilded, and so much fun. Okay, when it comes to 2018, this is another year where I just have the one tarot, but it is a standout. It is the David DeAngelis Starman Tarot, based on the work of David Bowie. Okay, let's take a quick moment to look at this amazing box that Los Scarabeo did. They are upping their game. We're seeing a lot more hardcover boxes, but look at this amazing little side flap, which is cool. Then you have a little pull-out tray, right, which is great. Then you have the guidebook here, which is full color and just chock-a-block full of information. And it's not hardcover, but it's not just softcover either. There's a really good sturdiness to this book. But these cards are just cool. I mean, they are funky. Starting from the backs, which are not reversible. But the cardstock, it's a little bit thicker. It's a little bit glossier. It is a little longer and thinner. So when we take out a normal Los Scarabeo card, you kind of see here, it's still wider and way taller. But the ratio from height to width is makes it a lot skinnier, which makes it kind of fun to hold. This has a little bit, this kind of suffers from the whole Tarot Illuminati that so much is going on the cards. And it has a very similar feel, but I like this one better. I just don't know what I do. So this is fun. This is one I've really slowly been getting into. This is obviously not an everyday tarot, and this is not one that I've read with for clients yet. But it's just cool, and it's got me listening to more David Bowie again. I haven't done that in a couple decades. So that is the Starman Tarot, my one only deck of 2018, so that makes it my number one. All right, so now we're down to 2019, and I have 3 decks for this year. 3 very, very different decks that, again, I go all across the spectrum. I'm going to talk first about the Golden Art Nouveau Tarot. This is one that I thought I wouldn't need. I mean, it's very standard Rider-Waite-Smith. It's kind of blingy, which, you know, can speak to me, but I don't know if I need. But again, it's one of those things that the more I saw it, the more I loved it. It's got an Art Nouveau style. And I just responded to it. And when I was at the Tarot Symposium, at Northwest Tarot Symposium, in March of 2020, right before COVID hit, I was at the New Renaissance bookstore, and I saw this, and I knew that I had to have it. So this is just a great kind of classic, just kind of deck. It's fun, and I use it, and it works. Next is another deck where they did something really, really different. So we have the Bix Tarot. Again, I got this, the Bix Tarot. I got this this year, and again, there was a sale, so I bought it. What I love about this deck is how little it is. It is a little bit bigger than mini size. So here's the mini, right? It seems very Hanson Roberts size, if you're familiar with Hanson Roberts. But it's got this great little bunny character in it. So very kind of gender neutral, which is good. Bright colors, great borders. And so, but very Rider-Waite-Smith, so it's super easy to use. It's fun. The one thing that I love most about this deck is the fact that there is a Spotify playlist for this deck. And I thought that is amazing that someone went through the creator or someone went through and said, hey, here are songs that match the cards in this deck and put them together to listen to. So I wish more artists would do that. And as you're like, hey, when you're creating your deck or whenever you're drawing the art, what are you listening to? What is inspiring you? And put it on Spotify for us all to listen to. So that's great. I would also like art and authors to do this too. So, hey, what were you listening to when you wrote the book? Because I think that really would add kind of little background information, stuff like that too. So, more Spotify playlists. I'm for it. But when it comes to my favorite deck in 2019, it's a little bit of not necessarily unusual choice, but it is the Z Tarot. This is the Zombie Tarot, and this is just the standard edition. This is my favorite of the two-part boxes. One, because it's nice and thick, but also two, as you pull up, you see kind of a different image of the same card, which is cool. This cardstock on this deck is amazing. It's rich and thick and sturdy. These backs are amazing, and the coloring on these cards are just here. Title card is just great. Obviously, it is a zombie tarot, so it's dark. But it reads, you know. I love zombies. My favorite zombie book is World War Z by McLeod Stevens or something. Go read it. The audiobook is super good too, because they do a full cast of characters reading the different parts, and it's just good. And I like the feel of it because it's told after we win the zombie war, and so there's some hope in it, but it gets dark too. But yeah, this is just a great deck. And so this deck has me super excited about the V Tarot, which is Vampires, which is coming out next month, which I've already pre-ordered and looking forward to coming into my collection soon. So so 2019, my favorite tarot is the Z Tarot. It's cool. 2020 has two decks, but they are on kind of opposite ends of the spectrum, and they are very different from each other, but also very my aesthetic. So what I want to talk about first is what I look forward to the most, and that is the Heaven and Earth Tarot by Jack Sephiroth. This is an amazing deck that really brings people into the Golden Dawn system. The book, check out the name hammer. How great is that? There's like a whole experience. And this, again, the wraparound magnetic box is my favorite. I like the smaller size, where it's just a deck, but this works. And these decks, again, have the scroll at the bottom, which is very Dark Grimoire Tarot. Anyone remembers that one we talked about? Has a lot of the has the esoteric title on it and the astrological correspondences to it, along with just an image. Super good. I talked about this most recently in my Thoth Clones video, so I'm not going to go to it a whole lot. But this is just a great deck. It's kind of dark and misty and atmospheric, but it works, and so it kind of pulls you in. It definitely has an atmospheric feel to it, which is cool. But my favorite deck of 2020 is the Voice of Tarot, the Vox Arcana. And I got this right at the end of 2020. And I, again, see the long two-piece box. I didn't know this was coming out, and just kind of found it and kind of sprang on it. And what this does, and this is a collaborative deck, and I'm not normally a huge fan of collaborative decks. I do back them, like the 78 Tarot. I'm a big supporter of, and I've backed them, and I'm waiting on 2 decks right now to come out. Super excited and waiting. But there was something about this one that was light and fresh, brought a smile to my heart and my face. And as 2020 was coming to an end, that is exactly what I needed. This is exactly what I needed. So that really became kind of a light in the dark, because the Heaven and Earth, it seemed dark in the dark. I love these backs. So this is just a fun deck, from a lot of different creators. And I don't hear a lot of people talking about it, but it was so cool. And so this has been fun to use. And it's one of the better collaborative decks. Again, it suffers from some of the things that all collaborative decks suffer. It doesn't necessarily feel 100% unified, but it works and it's fun. And for what I needed, this came when I needed a fun, happy deck, and it was perfect. So that became my number one tarot of 2020, the Voice of Tarot, the Vox Arcana. When it comes to decks for 2021, there are 2 decks currently in my collection. I am getting a third one that should be coming in pre-order at the end of October. The V Tarot, which is a vampire tarot similar to the Z Tarot. But the first one I got is the Tarot of Oppositions. This is a deck based on the idea of reversals, where each card has its opposite on the other side. I wanted to like this deck more than I do. I'm still kind of working with it, trying to give it a shot, because I still think there's some promise to it. I'm going to flip it over so you kind of see some there's light and dark to it, which is good. I do wish the backs were reversible, but they are not, which, whatever. If I think if you're going to do a deck that has basically intentional reversals, that you would do reversible backs, but they didn't, and so that's their choice. So it's kind of a cool back, though. I'm going to give them that too. Then the second deck that I've gotten this year is the Goetia Tarot in Darkness. This is a very, very dark deck in a couple of ways. This, I want to say, is probably my darkest deck that I have. It is monochromatic with black and gray and white. Here are the backs. One thing that I saw this deck being backed on Kickstarter, and I almost backed it, but because it's an Italian deck that was being sent from Italy, the shipping was going to be too much. And if you want to look at one of my videos, I'm talking about decks I won't back, are Kickstarters that aren't in North America. But when I got it, I started working with it. There is a key of information on the side that is not Golden Dawn, and so there's some switches to it, some changes, and I've tried to work with it, but it just makes my head hurt. I mean, it literally makes my head hurt when I use it. So it's beautiful, but I'm not going to use it. So this is probably a deck that I will probably be moving on, because this deck belongs in someone's collection because it is really cool. I might have kept it if they etched it in black, but they didn't, so whatever. Or maybe silver, I don't know. Black, maybe that was what I'm thinking is the Kickstarter. Maybe there was like silver inlays and stuff like that. So, but that's the Goetia Tarot, Tarot of Darkness. So those are my last decks, my last 2 tarot decks that I got in 2021, which I'm still kind of working with. Like, I'm not working with, so I'm moving it on. But it's got a cool box. It's got a great idea, and I wish I liked it more. But it makes my head hurt. It literally makes my head hurt, so I can't do it. So next, what I want to do is I want to move on and talk about my favorite, or my Los Scarebeo oracles in my collection, and then we'll be wrapping it up. So when it comes to talking about my Los Scarebeo oracles, it's a little bit easier to talk about, and I'm not going to do them in time order like I did with the tarot decks, because when there's just so many and too many things. These are a little bit easier to talk about. First, I'm going to talk about probably my most used Los Scarebeo oracle. This is the backs, and these are the dream cards, or dream inspirational cards. This was a deck that I purchased pretty soon, I would say 2007 or so, after I bought the Tarot of Metamorphosis, because this is the same deck creator. These are full tarot-sized cards with a blue border. There are 78 of them. And I want to tell you that they are numbered, and I want to tell you it took me way too long to figure out the numbering of them, because I thought, there's got to be a system. And I looked, and I realized it's alphabetical in Italian. And I just assumed that it would be English, but it wasn't. But, you know, why would an Italian deck creator put English priority on alphabetizing? So it's not. So, but that's fun. But these really go through a lot of different type of archetypes. I dove into this deck full force. This is really one of my first oracle decks I really got on with. And because I looked at the little white book and devoured it. I also got a dream dictionary of symbols, and I compared them. If they were the images, like this one is the car. What do dream dictionaries say about car, and how dream imagery, and what it said. But then also I did my own kind of deal. Then I also created a spread that really taught me how to interpret the cards, which is really neat. And so I love it. And then I got into Lenormand, and then there are Lenormand kind of references, because obviously this is not the card, but there are there's mountains and clouds and flowers or something like luck or something. So dogs. So I was able to then take what I knew from Lenormand and overlay it onto. So it was really cool, and I love this deck. And so whenever in the last year or two, and I mentioned this, when it was re-released as a dream interpretation oracle cards, I was so excited. I was so excited because I knew it was borderless, it was bigger, it was all those great things that you want to see in cards. But the problem is when they did it, they trimmed off some of the images, which was just disappointing. And so it made it a little, it was just disappointing, because I wanted the entire image bigger. Also, there are fewer cards, and so some of them got edited out, and of course, it's going to be, some of my favorite cards got edited out. So that's fine. So I keep this around because it's still fun, but I just dropped them all over. But the Dream Oracle, the Dream Inspirational cards, is one of my favorite oracles. But whenever I did get into Lenormand, the Los Scarebeo Lenormand decks were the first ones I had picked up. And I actually owned this one, the Art Nouveau Oracle. I got it whenever I got the Art Nouveau Tarot, and I kind of used them together, and I didn't realize that this was Lenormand. And when I did, I started kind of looking at it, because it said Sibylla Liberty, or Liberty Oracle, so I didn't know what that meant. It all said, you know, Modern Oracle. I guess it does say Lenormand in the corner, but I didn't know what that was when I got it. So as soon as I started learning it, I saw that it was good. But then I also picked up the Lenormand Oracle cards, and these came out in 2003. And I like these a little bit better as Lenormand cards, because they are a little bit more simple images with just the one symbol on the card, so it's a little bit clearer. And this is really great for learning. These backs are very classic old Los Scarebeo. We have one image flipped and mirrored, so it's good. But that's fine. There are 3 more oracles I want to talk about. And the first one I want to talk about is Angelarium, and this is the Oracle of Emanations. Can you see that? This is based on the Kabbalah and the angels and the spots and stuff are awesome. But these are great alien-looking angels, which are fierce and mysterious and have a real sense of unsafeness about them because angels shouldn't be safe. And these backs are just cool. So I love this thing. I haven't been able to use it because I'm not huge into Kabbalah, and I got it because I like the art, hands down. Then I also got the Barbieri Zodiac Oracle. This is on sale, and I got it because I like the art. This is not my favorite astrological oracle, and I don't use a whole lot of them. But again, this is just, it's great. Great art. It has a lot of big fantasy feel, which is what I love. That's my aesthetic, so it's good. But then my favorite, my new favorite Scarebeo Oracle is the Santa Muerte Oracle. Big surprise, right? I just raved about the Santa Muerte Tarot, so when this Oracle came out, I knew that I had to get it. And this is basically by the same illustrator. The cards have the very same feel. Of course, they are borderless, which is fine. I mean, it might have been cool if it had like the border from the deck. I'll be upside down. But one thing I like about it is that on the backs of the cards, there is a puzzle for a spirit board. And one thing I did is, I talked about this when I talked about the Santa Muerte Tarot, is when I went on vacation with my family to Mexico summer and the fall of 2019, right before Samhain and Halloween, I laid out the puzzle and I used it as kind of a spirit board, kind of just mat for a tarot reading with the Santa Muerte Tarot, and then I would turn over some of the cards to see what the meanings were and how they help manifest some of the energy, and that was a really fun, interesting little deal. And I'll probably do that again this year as well. Now that I've got this out, I was like, I'm so ready to use this deck because Halloween is so close. But this is good. So that's probably my second favorite Scarebeo Oracle. So I just want to say thanks for sticking around. I really appreciate you watching this entire video. If you've made it to the entire video, maybe you did, maybe you skipped around. But I hope you found something you liked. I hope you saw some decks you knew and remember that you love, or something you didn't and you found out you love, or something that you didn't like and you're like, yep, I'm glad I don't have it. So, but thanks for being here. I'll see you next time.